Morning, everyone, and welcome to Great Day Houston. Okay, you might not have known this, but tomorrow is National Quitters Day. Yes, according to data from the popular exercise app Strava, the end of the second week of the year is when motivation for many resolutions begins to drop off. So why can't we keep these important promises to ourselves? Here to help us better understand why we quit and how to pick ourselves back up, our licensed clinical psychologist, Dr. William July, and licensed professional counselor, Ty Lerman. Good morning.
Good morning.
All right, so I have a friend who says one of the problems is we decide to make those resolutions and promises to ourselves on this one day of the year. And if you happen to dismiss it, you go, oh, got to wait till whole next year to do it again, right? So the time to make an important decision in your life is that moment of awareness.
Exactly. You're always making important decisions like this to set goals. But what happens at the beginning of the year is people do it emotionally, and the emotions and logic are not two things that work together. So setting up emotion-based goals, that's the first thing you don't want to do.
Yeah, and then you add alcohol to that, the stroke of midnight. Yeah, the stroke of midnight, you're like, well, next year I'm going to be Halle Berry. I'm going to win an Oscar next year, right? All right, but yeah, and sometimes it's unrealistic goals.
Yeah, I think that part of the success of making these goals is choosing the right goal and then creating a support system to make sure we can sustain these goals.
Yeah, and also choosing a goal that truly doesn't just sound good to everybody else in the room, but it's something that you truly want to do.
Yes.
You got to own it for it to be successful. So part of being successful at anything that you want to do is that you truly love it, want it, it's of you, by you. All right. The psychology behind making these resolutions, though, is that kind of like a desire to feel good and feel like next year is going to bring brighter things.
Because we all want to have hope. You have to have hope drives you. So if you don't have hope, you don't have goals, life starts to bog down, you lose your motivation. So it is good to have the goals and set them, but you have to set them with little smaller goals that are going to get you to that big goal. And a lot of times people make these grandiose goals and they're not realistic, they're not achievable. Set a realistic and achievable goal with little steps and celebrate each little step along the way, because that's what you got to do. You got to live.
You mean like when you get in the gym and you go to the gym on that first day, right? You're like, you're doing everything, and then you get on the scale the next morning and go, wonk, 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 wonk.
That is the classic example.
Because when you get on the scale every day, and then all of a sudden I got to tell you, it like you feel like not a loser, because if you're trying to lose weight, you want to be a loser in that way. But you feel like it's like, okay, what did I do wrong? And it's amazing how just that little moment when you get on a scale, for example, with the weight challenges to yourself, just makes you feel bad.
And that's part of the reason I like what Dr. July said about setting the smaller goals, because if we're setting a large goal of I'm going to lose 30 pounds in 30 days, that type of a goal is just not realistic. And so the important part is setting smaller goals and smaller achievable goals that every small victory we celebrate. And we acknowledge that we get the little ones that build up and to create a larger goal.
One of the other resolutions I heard put out there was, I just want to be a better person. And I asked my friend, I go, so what does that mean? So specify what you want. I think that's where a lot of us get lost too, is that it's too vague.
Yeah.
And that's what Ty and I were just talking about before the show is the goal what we call a SMART goal? Is it specific? You got to help me out here. Measurable, achievable,
attainable, realistic, and then is it time measurable? Can you actually measure it in time?
Okay.
We both studied this in school, but we don't always remember the...
Right. All right. And then the elements of a good resolution are what we just kind of talked about here. So there's things like that. And then there's, real world examples, your dream job, love of my life, many factors that kind of come into that, some things you don't have control over, but there's a lot of power in being open to receiving things into your life if you want your life to change in a certain way. All right, the other thing is people are dealing with some other deals. We'll get into an addiction situation a little bit later on in the show. But some other things like just quitting smoking or cutting back on drinking, or all those types of things, that gets into another space. Improving your relationships, which is what you all do a lot of. There's a lot to be said for therapy. And I think you get one side of people who say, oh my gosh, yes, I want somebody who's non-judgmental to go talk to and figure it out. And then we still have other people who think, I don't need that. I don't need therapy. I don't need anybody to tell me how to do it. Explain to folks, to kind of remove that barrier, what therapy really can do.
Well, would you like to go?
Well, the thing that was coming up thank you, coming up in my mind is that, you know, if you break your toe, you're not going to go to a generalist.
Right.
You're going to go to a person that specifies and is specific and is a special, that is their specialty, right? And so if you're struggling with mental health and you're struggling with making behavior change, and that counts as mental health, then you should go to a specialist. And that's where therapy really helps out, is that this is what we do. This is our specialty. And so seeking out a therapist who has the skill set, who has the hours and hours and hours of training and education, can really help you in setting you on the path to reach those goals that you're trying to accomplish.
I think a lot of people are afraid of therapy because of what they might learn. And some things can be painful to go through, but it makes you so much better on the other end. And we can oftentimes tell everybody else how to do it, but we can't tell ourselves how to do it.
And there's a sequence. Like sometimes people come into therapy and they're in what we call this pre-contemplative state where they really don't know if they want to commit to it or not. And that's okay. That's still a start, because you may start and stop 4, 5, 6 times, but just do it. Commit to doing something for yourself.
Yeah, I'm going to go behind the doors on therapy. So another thing that people are concerned about is feeling ashamed of something or telling their deepest, darkest secrets. You are bound by ethics to keep those things secret, correct?
Absolutely.
Yeah, confidentiality is a big thing and one of the key tenets of our practice.
Yeah, and non-judgmental.
Totally non-judgmental, and we try to create a non-judgmental space and also a non-anxiety producing space, so that people can do that. People don't always say everything in therapy, and sometimes they feel like they're compelled to do that. And I tell you, no, you don't have to say everything. There's this whole, the way therapy works is a method just like physical therapy would work. So even if you don't tell me everything, there's still a process. That's proactive process taking place.
It's not like peeling that onion type of thing, right?
Exactly.
Not everything at one time, but as you keep peeling the onion away, those layers kind of come off that you can actually you can blossom, if you will.
Yeah, as you're ready, you peel those back, and I just help you.
I talked to you about the therapeutic process is more than just 1 hour a week in the office, right? The therapeutic process is everything that we engage with you and we challenge you to think about in your everyday life outside of the office.
Yeah, it's kind of like church. You go on that Sunday morning. We want you to carry through the whole week of being good and kind,
That's a great analogy.
Right? Yes. All right. The other thing is if you could have a couple having issues, sometimes one of the couple will come in, but the other one won't, and they're concerned about what you would say to the other person. Sometimes when children come in, they need to feel very free to talk, and you have to kind of balance what parents can find out, right?
And different, well, with children, there's a little caveat to the secrecy that takes place in the confidentiality in therapy, because I do have to tell the parent if there's something that is endangering the child's safety. So this is a conversation I'm going to have with you as a parent at the beginning and the child together, and I'm going to say we're an alliance here to help you, and these are the things I have to talk to your mom about. If there's something that comes up, I'm going to talk with your mom and your dad and you together, and we're going to work through it, because I have to gain the child's confidence.
Right.
Yeah, and I talk about the parents too about setting that expectation that I will tell you if I need to, but we also need to create a safe place where the child feels comfortable and knows that what they tell the therapist is with the therapist, unless we need to intervene with the parents, in which case we'll talk with the kid about doing that.
Because the last thing we want is to be perceived as the principal or the parent. We have a different role, so we have to approach it differently with the child as a partner.
Who is therapy for? Because I know a lot of times, just like in medicine, we show up in crisis, right? As we go. I think it's a good idea, even like when a child is 12 or 13 or entering puberty and things kind of change in communication with their parents, to go in and be able to sit and you just have an idea of where they stand. But in general, who is therapy for? What would you consider kind of the reasons why somebody should come in?
Well, going back to couples, you mentioned couples. Couples often come in crisis, and they want to come in separately, and I'm like, no, you both need to be here. There's actually literature to show that if couples come in separately, one person's going to grow, one person's going to stay the same, and they're more likely to split.
Right.
So couples therapy is couples therapy, not individual. But anyway, therapy is for
everyone.
Everyone, yeah.
Boy,
that says,
it's kind of like a health check. I think it'd be like just like you go get a physical. It's kind of a health check.
That's the way people should look at it.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, you do. You go an annual exam every year as just a check-in, just to make sure we're doing okay. And our vehicle, we do that every 3,000 miles. We get an oil change. Every 30,000 miles, we get a full maintenance overhaul.
True.
We don't do this with our mental health, and we are the most sophisticated machine in the world. But we don't do our regular maintenance, and that's where we get into crisis, is because we're not practicing the maintenance.
And I'll tell you, I've been, and I found out that I'm not as crazy as I thought I was. But anyway, guys, thank you very, very much. Okay, to get in touch with Dr. July or Ty Lerman, visit greatdayhouston.com, and we will connect you to them.